So join me as we explore the vast, fascinating world of the Hymenoptera in North America. Why is the camera still on me? You're supposed to pan out. North America. Bees of the genus Agapostemon are strictly American. There are about 40 species altogether and 13 species in North America. All species of Agapostemon nest in the ground, sometimes in dense aggregations. In this video, we will take a closer look at 4 species which are perhaps the most commonly encountered. Agapostemon virescens and Agapostemon texanus are transcontinental, while Agapostemon melliventris and Agapostemon femoratus are found only in western North America. The story of the genus begins in 1775 in Kiel, Germany, where Professor Johann Fabricius published his Genera Insectrum. In it was a description of an American bee he named Andrena virescens. His specimen came from the collection of British explorer Joseph Banks. Agapostemon virescens is a striking bee and must have been dazzling to Fabricius. Its head and thorax are bright metallic green. Its abdomen, in contrast, is a flat black with white oppressed hairs that create a striped appearance. The males have some noticeable differences from the females. Their abdomens have yellow bands instead of white hairs. Their legs, too, have a mixture of yellow and brown. Their head and thorax, however, have the same metallic emerald color as the females. Virescens is just a bit smaller than a worker honeybee. Females measure roughly 11 millimeters, and the males average about a millimeter less. Notice that both males and females have a striped abdomen, but create it in very different ways. 69 years after Fabricius described virescens, in 1844, Felix Guérin Menneville, working in Paris, proposed the taxon Agapostemon as a subgenus of Apis. Agapostemon was a transliteration of the Greek words for stamen-loving. Frederick Smith in London would be the first to use it as a genus, and this American taxon was born. 28 years after Felix, in 1872, Ezra Townsend Cresson noted 3 species from Texas, including one he described as new, and as with many species he described from this catalog, he named his brilliant new bee Texanus. Agapostemon texanus is metallic from head to tail. Across its continent-spanning range, there are different color patterns, including a yellowish form in the Sierras and a deep bluish form along the Southern California coastline. The males follow the same color pattern as the virescens males: metallic green head and thorax, yellow banded tergites, bright yellow legs, yellow clypeus. Really a dramatic look for any insect. 2 years later, Cresson described another species from the southwestern United States. He named it melliventris for its dark abdomen. However, for much of its range, the females of this species have a lighter, caramel-colored abdomen. Like this one from southern Nevada. Melliventris is about as colorful as a hymenopteran can get. The abdomen of females from the Great Plains are nearly black. Those further south and west are honey-colored. Bright yellow, furry legs completes the look. 27 years later, in 1901, James Crawford, while still a student at the University of Nebraska, divided the genus into 15 species in North America, several of which were new. Among these new species was one he named femoratus, for the greatly enlarged hind femoral segment on the males. The females are, like texanus, all green. Femoratus is perhaps the most abundant species in the Northwest. 35 years after Crawford's revision in 1936, Gray Sandhouse revised the genus in the U.S. She examined over 4,000 specimens and divided them into 10 U.S. species and included detailed illustrations of male genitalia by Eleanor Carlin. 24 years after Sandhouse, in 1960, Theodore Mitchell, working at North Carolina State College, covered 4 eastern species in his Bees of the Eastern United States. 12 years later, in 1972, Radcliffe Roberts at Oregon State University revised the entire New World genus. Examining over 50,000 specimens, he recognized 43 species. He provided 4 regional keys and described 19 new species. Just a year later, Radcliffe also published Technical Bulletin 126, a detailed account of 6 northwestern species. It included a regional key, nesting diagrams, and other biological information, a valuable resource for the genus. 38 years later, in 2011, John Pickering at the University of Georgia, along with John Asher at the American Museum of Natural History, launched Discover Life, a website with matrix-based identification guides for all sorts of taxa. Their guides to North American bees are extensive, and they cover 14 species of Agapostemon. This is the best place to start. There you will see range maps for each species. Range maps will give you a sense for the scope of your problem. It's worth pointing out the incredible range of texanus. It manages to survive in an astounding number of different environments. Although length won't reveal the identity of your specimen, knowing it might help pare down your list. All the bees in this genus are medium to small. Melliventris is on the small end at about 8 to 9 millimeters, while virescens is on the large end at 11 to 12 millimeters. Since males and females are so different, you will need to follow separate keys for each of them, so make sure you know what you have. Males have yellow stripes on their abdomens, while females have black, brown, or metallic abdomens. Males also have few hairs on their bright yellow legs, while females have modified hairs to manipulate pollen. Among the characters you will be working with will be various color patterns that are generally easy to see, like the color of the scape, or the extent of color on the legs of males. Of course, as we have already seen, there is variation in the color of the abdomens of females. If you have a female to identify, this is a good place to start. Deeper into the key, however, will require observing much more subtle characters, like punctation. Looking at punctation requires patience, good lighting, and high magnification. A close look at the punctation on the scutum of female texanus and another species called Angelicus reveals 2 sizes of pits. All other species have pits, grooves, and reticulations that vary. For the males, there is variation in leg morphology and color, and nothing is as easy as the greatly enlarged hind femora of femoratus, the structure it is named after. All the males have some swelling of their femora, but when you have a male femoratus, it is quite obvious. With such a large overlap of their ranges, you will always have to differentiate between males of texanus and virescens. Luckily, texanus has metallic tints on its last 2 tergites, while virescens has a dark look. Be sure to rotate your specimen because the tints disappear at most angles. They only flash when the light is just right. Well, that should get you started. Good luck. As always, a special thanks go to the internet resources that make these videos possible, including the Biodiversity Heritage Library, Discover Life, and Iowa State University's Bug Guide. Look for them online. That's very interesting.